Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Rector of the speaking course, and all of my friends. Let me introduce myself. My name is Dinda Annisa Syahida. I'm from Pro Team. I want to explain my opinion about should smoking be bad in society. And for the first, I want to discuss it from a health perspective. The impact of smoking on the health of the body is common knowledge. This bad habit can cause various distinguished diseases. Not only has an impact on active smokers and anyone who inhales smoke. Various studies have proven that there are many diseases caused by smoking. Based on data from 152 countries in 2018, shows that every year of the total economic cost of smoking or health spending and productivity losses in 2064 trillion rupiahs and is equivalent to 1.8% of the world's annual GNP. In general, the factors that cause death in Indonesia are high blood pressure or hypertension, 28%, smoking 70.3%, unhealthy diet 60.4%, high blood sugar 50.2%, obesity 5.9%, and lack of activity 4%. We can see from this data that smoking causes the number two risk of death, so many non-communicable diseases are closely related to smoking, such as cancer, heart disease, respiratory disease, chronic lung disease, stroke, vascular disease, and other cancer-related disease. Therefore, quitting smoke will reduce the risk of non-communicable disease, and the smoking cessation campaign is also in line with Presidential Instruction number 1 of 2017 concerning Gerakan Masyarakat Sehat or Germas in order to accelerate and synergize preventive action and efforts for healthy living. Thank you.
Well, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Counter team. So the pro team that I respect, I don't agree with your statement about smoking, which is often considered harmful to health. However, cigarettes don't always cause negative things, but there are also positive impacts given by cigarettes that have been tested by World Health experts. Researchers from the University of Central Florida, or UCF, say nicotine can cure tuberculosis, which is difficult to find a cure for. Then smoking can accelerate the healing of heart disease. This finding is very surprising to the world. It turns out that people who are active smokers accelerate the recovery of heart disease. This is because the carbon monoxide contained in cigarette smoke can stop the construction of blood vessels from the brain of the heart, thereby accelerating the healing of the disease. Then a study people who smoke for more than 4 years would reduce the risk of developing breast cancer by approximately 15%. Nicotine in cigarette tobacco is able to kill tuberculosis germs. Nicotine is a compound substance found in cigarette tobacco and surprisingly can be used as a drug to kill tuberculosis germs, or commonly called tuberculosis. Even if used in a small amount, research has also found other facts about smoking. Namely, by smoking, people are less likely to get skin cancer, which is very rare. It has been proven directly by the National Cancer Institute, or NCI. Studies across two generations of the Swedish population show that in a multivariate analysis, the children of fathers who smoke at least 15 cigarettes a day tend to have a lower chance of developing rhinoconjunctival allergies, allergic asthma, atopic eczema, and food allergies, compared to children who smoke at least 15 cigarettes a day, children of fathers who never smoked. Then for the Indonesian economy, cigarettes can. The first is can help the Indonesian economy through taxes from cigarettes. The second one, with the existence of a cigarette factory in Indonesia, it can create jobs and reduce the unemployment rate in Indonesia. The third, opportunities for tobacco farmers, and the last is for profitable cigarette sponsors for health. Thank you.
Okay, Kirsten, responding to your opinion, I disagree with your opinion. According to figures released by the Bureau of Statistics in July, cigarettes are the second largest contributor to poverty. This regulation, which is still very profitable for the cigarette industry, has led anti-smoking advocacy group to once dubbed in Indonesia the paradise of tobacco industry. The Indonesian people's nation addiction to tobacco is not only driven by its availability and affordability, but also because of the important role it plays in the country's economy. If people want to be aware that cigarettes are actually dangerous and it's better to just get rid of them. Thank you.
Well, responding to your statement, the discussion about cigarettes is indeed a fairly controversial topic. You mentioned cigarettes as the second largest contributor to poverty. But who would have thought that cigarettes actually become the backbone of the country? This special thing is precisely what makes cigarettes legal and protected by law. Apart from being the biggest tax contributor, tobacco companies also provide CCR funds to educational institutions in various forms of scholarship such as skills training scholarship, education funds for outstanding or underprivileged students, and even cigarettes also donate funds to improve campus infrastructure. Then why do we all reject cigarettes but accept and share the funds? For example, a number of activities at universities are proven to still receive sponsorship funds from the cigarettes industry. University of Gajah Mada has collaborated with the Jarum Foundation to build an auditorium and other facilities at the Pertamina Tower Building, Faculty of Economics and Business in 2011 until 2012. The auditorium, which is equipped with teleconference facilities, was built with funds worth 44.3 billion. Visitors to the Jarum Foundation auditorium can attend public lectures by teleconference with students from the other regions and abroad. Does this include small funds? Not right. In addition, we must be familiar with the Jarum Foundation scholarship, where many universities and educational institutions cooperate and compete to register themselves in order to obtain the scholarship. In addition, we can see in the Constitutional Court's decision numbered 19 PUU 8 2010 dated November 1 and other laws and regulations that have never placed cigarettes as a product that is prohibited for publication. Moreover, there is no prohibition on trading and never places tobacco and cloves as prohibited agricultural products. Therefore, we firmly, as a counter team, reject the ban on smoking for the public. Thank you.
Okay, starting by respond to the statement given by the counter team, namely that cigarette can become the backbone of the country. I don't think that it can be said that completely. Tobacco is one of the preventable causes of death. The number is second. And however, the loosening of tobacco control regulation in Indonesia has made the number of smokers skyrocket, making it the third largest after China and India. And the increasing consumption of cigarettes further exacerbates the burden of disease caused by smoking and increases the mortality rate due to smoking. Cigarette-related disease cause a financial deficit for the Health Social Security Administering Agency or BPJS. And our research showed that macroeconomics losses due to cigarette consumption in Indonesia in 2015 reached almost 600 trillion rupiah or 4 times more the legal cigarette excise tax in the same year. This loss increased 63% over the previous 2 years. And the success of the cigarette business in this country can be seen in the increasing percentage of the number of smokers among children and adolescents. The indication that is between 90 and uh, sorry, 1995 and 2013, smokers aged 10 to 14 years increased from 0.5% to 4.8%, and smokers aged 15 to 19 years increased from 13.7% to 37.3%. And the prevalence of active smoker in rural areas is twice that in urban areas. And the economic impact of smoking has devastating impact on society due to premature death, lost productivity, and the financial burden on smokers and their families, healthcare providers, insurance providers, and employers. And increasing numbers of active smokers among the younger generation will endanger of the quality of future generation and affect the quality of the demographic bonus that is expected to occur in Indonesia. Because the nicotine in tobacco is addictive, spending on tobacco at the household level trumps all other household spending priorities, including the needs of nutrition, food, and children's education. And the situation can perpetuate or worsen the socio-economic levels of poor families. The commitment of the government and civil society, including civil society organization and the private sector to implement tobacco control policies in agar urgently needed to reduce tobacco consumption and reduce the economic burden. Estimate macroeconomic losses clearly show that the economic impact of tobacco consumption tends to be detrimental to effort to improve public health and overall development. Therefore, we strongly support that the existence of a smoking ban, especially in Indonesia, for the sake of developing intellectual young people and maintaining economic stability. Thank you.
Well, responding to your statement, again, I don't agree with your opinion. If there is a ban on smoking in Indonesia for the sake of developing intellectual young people and maintaining economic stability, the first reason is that if cigarettes are banned, it means that the tobacco companies must also be closed. If cigarette factories are closed, Indonesia will lose one of the country's foreign exchange earners. It is noted that cigarette factories are the largest foreign exchange earner, namely 16.5 trillion in 2004, and in 2016 cigarette factories contribute 1,037 trillion, which is a very large number. One more thing that cannot be denied by anyone regarding the privilege of the cigarette sector in absorbing a large workforce. However, the government must admit that there is a large absorption of labor in the cigarette sector. The second reason, the number of workers for the cigarette industry as a whole involves as many as 6.1 million people. Of course, this is if you want to examine it more. You will definitely find an even bigger number. For example, the number of tobacco and crop farmers alone. Based on data from the Directorate General of Plantation, Ministry of Agriculture show the number is almost 3 million households. Not to mention talking about the processing sector, circulation, traders, to advertising and media workers. The Ministry of Manpower, Hanif Dahiri, also stated that the number of workers in the cigarette sector is more than 6 million, from tobacco farming to the cigarette industry, distribution, and all that stuff. The number of workers in cigarette industry, the Confederation of Indonesian Trade Unions, or KSPI, also estimates that there are around 6.1 million workers in it. The third reason, the cigarettes industry, which is also known as the tobacco products industry or IHT, has formed a series of layers of workers, ranging from plantation and tobacco processing to the cigarettes industry. Most of the workers are absorbed in small industry that still use their hands or handcrafted cigarettes or SKT. This layer is still supported by trade workers to market tobacco and cigarettes for both the domestic market or domestic demand and the export market. So I do not be surprised if the government always emphasizes that if the cigarette sector dies, it will have a significant impact on employment in Indonesia, and the absorption of this large workforce is always a consideration for the government in every discussion related to the cigarette sector. These three reasons make cigarettes considered strategic and special for the country. We can imagine that if the cigarette sector dies as a result of the tobacco control campaign, which is becoming more and more massive, three things that make cigarettes special for the country will be lost. Let's see if the country dares to lose three things that are special from the cigarette sector. If you dare, please legalize cigarettes which have been like a red plate industry for the state because it is win-win for both cigarette entrepreneurs and the state or and society. Cigarette factories continue to operate, smoking or no smoking is their choice. Thank you.
Okay. This is my conclusion. The smoking causes the number two risks of death, so that many non-communicable diseases are closely related to smoking, such as cancer, heart disease, respiratory disease, and many others. And therefore, quitting smoking will reduce the risk of non-communicable disease. We strongly support the existence of a smoking ban, especially in Indonesia, for the sake of developing intellectual young people and maintaining economic stability. Thank you.
All right. In closing, I say that when we face a case, we should not only look at it from one point of view, apart from the impact of smoking on health, but in fact, tobacco has become the backbone of the country. Cigarettes as a contributor to a fairly large tax on the state. If prohibited, the state will lose its income up to hundreds of trillions. And the state will suffer a huge loss if cigarettes are banned from production again. Instead, it will trigger new problems in the community, such as increasing unemployment. So, in my opinion, cigarettes should not be banned in a social environment. Smokers can follow government regulation through restriction on smoking and non-smoking areas, especially in closed public places, in order to create order between smokers and non-smokers. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's all from us. My name is Dinda and Syahida, and my friends.
My name is Christine.
Okay, we were sorry if we have mistake. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.